The story of the Medici Bank does not begin with power. It begins with obscurity. In the late 1300s, Florence was a city overflowing with ambition, but starved of stability. Fortunes rose and collapsed overnight, and the families who ruled the city did so through alliances, betrayals, and blood. In that chaotic world, a small, remarkable family of wool merchants began weaving something far more valuable than cloth. They began weaving trust. Giovanni de' Medici, the quiet and calculating founder of the Medici Bank, understood something that few men of his age truly grasped. Money wasn't just a substance or a pile of coins locked away behind iron doors. Money was a relationship, a promise, a network of obligations that stretched across borders, across languages, across entire kingdoms. And whoever controlled that network controlled the flow of power itself. Giovanni built his reputation slowly, avoiding the deadly rivalries that consumed Florence. He lent money when others refused. He honored contracts others broke. And he cultivated allies not through fear, but through reliability. In a world of unpredictable rulers and volatile markets, Giovanni became the banker people could trust. And trust, as the Medici would prove, is the most profitable commodity of all. The Medici Bank grew quietly at first. A branch in Florence, then one in Venice, then in Rome, and then, suddenly, across all of Europe. Giovanni understood that the most valuable client was not a merchant or a noble, it was the church. When he secured the lucrative position of managing the papacy's finances, the Medici Bank transformed from a Florentine success story into the beating financial heart of Christendom itself. Through the church accounts, the Medici handled tithes, indulgences, and vast flows of religious income that crossed every border in Europe. They became the guardians of spiritual wealth and, in a very real sense, the accountants of salvation. Whenever someone paid for forgiveness, the Medici earned interest. But Giovanni's true genius lay in how discreetly he operated. He avoided political office. He avoided public attention. He avoided almost anything that might make the Medici seem threatening. Its power expanded like a shadow, silent, invisible, but impossible to escape. When Giovanni died in 1429, he left behind more than a fortune. He left behind a blueprint. And his son, Cosimo de' Medici, the man history would call Cosimo the Elder, followed that blueprint with the precision of an architect and the ambition of a conqueror. Cosimo understood immediately what his father had built, but he also understood what it could become. He looked at Florence, a city divided, corrupt, consumed by rival clans, and he realized something extraordinary. Whoever controlled Florence would control the trade routes, the currency exchanges, the merchant guilds, and the cultural heartbeat of the Renaissance. And whoever controlled Florence could shape Europe. So Cosimo set out to do the impossible. He would take over the city without ever drawing a sword. His method was subtle, elegant, and devastatingly effective. He used the bank. Cosimo extended loans to struggling merchant families, sometimes at generous rates, sometimes at no interest at all. But the debt had nothing to do with money. The debt was political. And each time a family accepted Medici support, they unknowingly surrendered a piece of their independence. Cosimo bought influence in the same way other men bought land. Piece by piece, quietly, patiently, until one day the entire city was living on Medici credit. His enemies saw the threat too late. The Albizzi family, the Medici's greatest rivals, accused Cosimo of treason and tried to eliminate him through the courts. Cosimo was imprisoned, and Florence stood on the brink of civil war. But, even in his cell, the Medici network protected him. All across the city, merchants, guilds, and bankers understood that if Cosimo fell, their own fortunes would fall with him. And so, without violence, without rebellion, without a single riot in the streets, the public demanded his release. Cosimo returned to Florence not as a victim, but as the city's quiet ruler. And from that moment on, Florence moved to the rhythm of Medici banking. Under Cosimo, the Medici Bank reached its golden age. Branches operated in Rome, Venice, Naples, London, Bruges, Geneva, Milan, and Avignon. Fortunes flowed through Medici ledgers like blood through veins. They financed kings, cardinals, dukes, merchants, and even wars. They became Europe's lenders, its overseers, and its hidden puppet masters. But Cosimo did something even more transformative. He invested in ideas. He funded artists, architects, scientists, and philosophers. He hired Brunelleschi to build the magnificent dome that still defines the Florence skyline. He sponsored scholars whose discoveries reshaped the Renaissance. He brought forgotten Greek texts back into Europe and encouraged the study of humanism. Medici money didn't just build palaces, it built the foundations of modern culture. Yet every empire that rises must face a moment of danger. And for the Medici, that danger came not from outside the bank, but from within it. After Cosimo's death, leadership of the bank passed to his sons and then his grandson, Lorenzo de' Medici. Known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, Lorenzo was brilliant, charismatic, and beloved by the people. He was a patron of Michelangelo, Botticelli, and countless Renaissance masters. But Lorenzo was not a banker. He cared for glory more than balance sheets. And slowly, quietly, the financial pillars that held up the Medici Empire began to crack. Branches mismanaged funds. Risky loans went unpaid. The London branch collapsed spectacularly after lending heavily to King Edward IV, who failed to repay. The Bruges branch followed, and the Medici, who had once controlled the economies of nations, suddenly found themselves suffocating under the weight of their own ambition. Meanwhile, resentment inside Florence was boiling over. The Papacy family, a powerful rival clan, launched a violent conspiracy to kill Lorenzo and his younger brother Giuliano during Mass inside Florence Cathedral. Giuliano was murdered. Lorenzo survived. The city erupted in fury. The conspirators were hunted down and executed in brutal public displays. The Pope, outraged at the violence, excommunicated Lorenzo and even sent troops against Florence. But the city rallied around its leader, and Lorenzo's political strength surged higher than ever. Yet, even as his influence grew, the bank collapsed deeper into crisis. By the time Lorenzo died in 1492, Medici Bank, the institution that had once dominated Europe, was effectively finished. But the Medici story was far from over. Even without their financial empire, the Medici name still commanded loyalty. They returned to power multiple times, shaping Florence and influencing European politics. Two Medici women became queens of France, 4 Medici became popes, and their patronage of art and science shaped the Renaissance and, ultimately, the modern world. Their bank vanished, their accounts emptied, their branches dissolved, but their impact endured. The Medici proved something that few families in history ever understood so clearly. Money is not just currency. It is not just wealth. Money is a system of influence, a web of obligations, a quiet, invisible force that shapes the destiny of nations more profoundly than armies or kings. The Medici family bought Europe not with swords or soldiers, but with credit, trust, and the soft power of financial dependency. And their legacy still echoes in every modern bank, every financial institution, and every system built on the belief that trust can be measured, traded, and leveraged into power. If you enjoyed this hidden chapter in the story of money, go ahead and like and subscribe. It tells me you want to dive even deeper into the ideas and events that shaped the economic world. And don't stop here. There are countless more stories like this strange, surprising, and incredibly relevant, and I'd love to share them with you. Thanks for watching.